Bulls Nation, as the day continues to go on, and from my last video, there is still more news to talk about in relation to the Chicago Bulls. As I said before, we're going to get these pieces of news every single day. It's not just going to be a free ride, nothing to talk about until free agency. We still have a long way to go until we figure out the team that we're going to be for the Chicago Bulls. And we seem to be in a very good direction right now. We seem to be going at a very good rate. But let's talk about the Chicago Bulls news, and let's talk about the possibilities for our team even more in this video. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? It's the Aidan Sports Show, and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a Chicago Bulls related video, and this one is referring to the latest news and rumors about the Chicago Bulls. My last video absolutely popped off, and I'm not really sure what the reason is, what's the difference between my last video and all the other ones, but I thank you everyone for watching that video, and I've got a massive amount of support back from that video, and I'm very happy about it. So thank you so much to all of you guys, new and old, watching the videos. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the latest Chicago Bulls news and rumors that we'll be discussing today. The first thing that we have to say, and it is an official piece of news, it's not technically related to the Chicago Bulls, but of course it will affect the Chicago Bulls going forward for free agency. The New Orleans Pelicans have extended their qualifying offer for Lonzo Ball, which technically, well, not technically, it makes him a restricted free agent. This was expected. I don't feel anybody will be looking at this piece of news and worrying like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen with Lonzo Ball? This is exactly what I expected to happen. This is exactly what should happen. Basically, the New Orleans Pelicans now will have the final say on whether or not Lonzo Ball will leave and join the Chicago Bulls. That's expected. That's exactly what we did with Larry Marketing. It's basically allowing their team to have the final say on the situation, whether they can re-sign him, whether it's in their best interest, and whether or not it will be suitable for them. And of course, we'll be offering the sheet to get Lonzo Ball to this team, and that will be in our best interest, and hopefully they won't stand in the way. That's basically how it was always going to be in many ways. Even if we don't get Lonzo Ball, there's still a sign and trade option, which again is allowed because he's now a restricted free agent. All of these things seem to be pretty much as expected, but as a piece of news and official news, it's very important to discuss these types of things. Speaking of Lonzo Ball, last video I talked about him potentially being interested in a 4-year deal. Not too long after that video was released, there was more updates about Lonzo Ball and that deal. It could be around a 4-year deal worth $80 million. Now, if you do the math, 4 years, 80 million, that's around $20 million a year, which again, I feel like we would have to done to bring Lonzo Ball into this team. The Pelicans said a while back they won't be accepting major offers, which again, leads to us having to a little bit overpay for Lonzo Ball. Is Lonzo Ball worth $20 million a year? If you look on stats alone, I don't think the answer is yes. And if you look at stats alone, Larry Marketing isn't worth $25 million a year, which seems to be around the range that it's reported that he could potentially get, which is an incredible amount of money for him. And it's the same with Lonzo Ball. But we are signing a player that will continue to get better every year as he's done, will continue to elevate his game as he's done, which will continue to take us to the next level, which hopefully we will. And it's a player that maybe in 3 years, 2 years time, he will be worth that $20 million. So he's not worth it now, but maybe down the line he will be worth it. And again, we are paying players based on potential. That's just what the NBA is these days. So to be honest, I have no issue giving Lonzo Ball $20 million a year. I understand it's a steep amount of money to give, and I also understand that many people might not see him as worth it, but hopefully down the line we'll be paying a player that will eventually be worth that money. And again, if we want to bring our top priority, we always knew we were going to have to overpay for him. So unless you want to bring another point guard into this team that doesn't have to be overpaid, but might not have the same future goals for the Chicago Bulls, I guess that's up to you and your interpretation. I would rather give this money to Lonzo Ball than Dennis Shroder, so that's obviously a topic of discussion there. And personally, I think Lonzo Ball, maybe down the line, will be worth $20 million, and we'll pay him based on the potential that he offers this team, which again could be very, very good. And I'd be willing to take the risk on Lonzo Ball. Let's talk about more news. This is around Daniel Theis. Daniel Theis is an unrestricted free agent. This is, of course, a very hard thing to swallow for many people. Daniel Theis was such an important part to this team. But the days that go by, I'm starting to believe Daniel Theis won't be a Chicago Bull next season. We've been trying to commit to him to make him commit to a long-term contract, and I just don't see it happening for the money that we can afford him for. So, upsetting stuff here. The news about Daniel Theis is that the Rockets seem to be very interested in a player like Daniel Theis. They're looking to bring a center in, and there's potential talks about sign-in trades, which will allow the Houston Rockets to get Daniel Theis and give the other team a trade exception. This doesn't necessarily mean the Chicago Bulls could do the sign-in trade, but if you are the Chicago Bulls and Daniel Theis was recently your player, if you're not going to be keeping Daniel Theis permanently, the best thing for the Chicago Bulls is to do a sign-in trade and try and get something back for Daniel Theis. And a trade exception could be something that could be very valuable going forward. I feel like this is definitely something the Chicago Bulls should consider. Again, personally, Daniel Theis, in my opinion, needs to be longer term, but I understand at this point it seems to be more unlikely than likely that we will get Daniel Theis on a long-term contract. That's just how it is. It's how the NBA goes, and we might not be able to, I guess, use that money on him. We still potentially can. I mean, we still should have enough to re-sign Daniel Theis, but the more that I see it, the more days that go by, the more that I don't believe Daniel Theis will be a Chicago Bull. He's gone very quiet on Daniel Theis and the Bulls, and we might have a few players that play in that position now that kind of leaves Daniel Theis in a bit of a predicament, I would say. So keep your eyes out on that. But yeah, we'll see what happens in terms of Daniel Theis' free agency. If we can somehow pull off a sign and trade to the Houston Rockets, I think that would be pretty good in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that one. That's a pretty interesting one. And something that did happen in terms of the Los Angeles Lakers side of things and Dennis Shroder, obviously the big trade for Russell Westbrook, which sent Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell to the Wizards, and the Wizards gave up Russell Westbrook. Now, I'm not going to talk about whether it's a good or bad trade for both sides, because at the end of the day, I could be here all night talking about that, and it's a very interesting trade. However, this does affect the Chicago Bulls, as Dennis Shroder will not be a Laker. And I've said this for a while now. It was only a guess. I'm not going to say I 100% knew Dennis Shroder wasn't going to rejoin the Lakers. I just thought with everything that happened last season, there was reports that they didn't get along, a lot of the Lakers team, and Dennis Shroder was part of that. Dennis Shroder wanted big money, and the Lakers were hesitant. All of these things were pretty well-known knowledge, and in the end, it looks like Dennis Shroder won't be a Los Angeles Laker this season, which means it could very well heat up that we could get Dennis Shroder. And again, I know many people don't like that, and I'm part of that situation. I'm not a huge fan of Dennis Shroder joining the Chicago Bulls, but again, if this is something that has been reported, that Dennis Shroder could potentially pick between the New York Knicks and the Chicago Bulls. And from my understanding, Lonzo's the top priority, which means Dennis Shroder would be a player that we would get potentially if we don't get Lonzo Ball. And in my opinion, I think with more and more people talking about Lonzo Ball by the day, we will get Lonzo Ball. I think it's as simple as that at the end of the day at this point. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. There's been some news about Derrick Rose only wanting to pick playoff teams, and at the end of the day, I may as well talk about it. I don't know if this is credible or not. I don't know who said it, and yeah, it's a bit of a sticky situation, isn't it? But does he consider us a playoff team? I mean, if with all the moves that we could potentially be making, I think it's hard to say that we won't be a playoff team at this point. So I guess it depends if Derrick Rose sees us as a playoff team, and if we are a playoff team in his mind, and of course, he can come to the Chicago Bulls. But yeah, I'm not really sure about that situation. There's been talks about the Wizards as well for some reason. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Also, there was a reporter talking about Patrick Williams and potentially trading for Pascal Siakam. Now, this is just a man's opinion, so I'm not going to go out and I guess say his opinion is wrong. But I don't want to see us trading Patrick Williams for anyone right now. I understand Pascal's a great player, and again, he would make a lot of sense on the Chicago Bulls, in my opinion. But we have a player in Patrick Williams that could be anything he wants to be, and it looks like he wants to be great. And he's saying it to himself, and other people are saying it to him. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but I don't see Patrick Williams as a player right now that we should be looking to trade, because in the end he can be a great player in this league, and he can be very good for us, and he can be a player that in the end can make us a fantastic team if he steps up. In the end, our whole season can change if Patrick Williams is taking leaps upon leaps upon leaps every season. Our whole situation will change because he has that potential, in my opinion, and he has that ceiling to do so. It's just a question of whether or not he can do it. It's going to take some time to figure out, but I'd rather give him that time than just trade him away to a team that eventually can make him a superstar. And when we are here, we could do that. So I'm not too sure about that one either. I'm going to say I respectfully disagree. But yeah, everybody's allowed to have their opinion. If people want Pascal for Patrick Williams, that's fair enough for you guys. You can well and truly have that opinion. I'm not going to say you're right or wrong. I'm not right or wrong. I just don't believe we should be trading Patrick Williams at this time. And that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts about all of the things I've talked about today. A lot of discussion. Again, Patrick Williams trade for Pascal, I don't think will ever happen. But yeah, there was a lot of talk about a reporter talking about it, so I felt like it'd be very, very interesting to see what people think about that. Derrick Rose, we talked about Derrick Rose looking for playoff teams. I guess it depends if he sees us as a playoff team. Lonzo Ball getting his qualifying offer, pretty standard there. Daniel Theis potentially going to the Rockets. Interesting concept there. We'll see what happens. And Lonzo Ball liking a 4-year, $80 million deal. Could be a little bit too much at this point, but hopefully he can earn his way into that contract. And again, I'm banking on him to do so. So that's all the news here, ladies and gentlemen. And we also talked about Dennis Shroder. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.